Life is too short and eternity too certain to waste your days tethered to those who could not care less about your journey. Yet how often do we hold on, hoping that indifference might turn into love, or neglect might transform into attention? We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, if we just give more, perhaps one day the coldness will thaw. But the truth is sobering. Not everyone who walks beside you is truly with you, and not everyone who shares your time deserves your heart. There is a heavy cost to clinging to people who do not care. They weigh you down with silence when you need encouragement, with absence when you need presence, and with apathy when you need faith. They strip you of energy meant for your calling and leave you empty in the very moments you should be overflowing. This message is a call to freedom. Freedom from false ties, freedom from the illusion of connection where there is none, freedom to rise into the fullness of your God-given identity, unchained by those who refuse to value it. Tonight, it is time to release what holds you back and walk into the life that truly awaits you. From the very beginning of our lives, we are conditioned to measure ourselves by how others see us. The applause of the crowd, the approval of friends, the affirmation of family, all these voices echo around us, shaping our self-perception. Yet if we are not careful, these external judgments become the very prison that locks us in insecurity and self-doubt. The sobering reality is that your worth is not up for debate, nor is it defined by the shifting moods of people around you. Your value is not diminished when someone ignores you, nor does it increase when they suddenly pay attention. Worth, in its truest form, comes from the one who made you, and it is settled long before the world ever had an opinion about you. The danger of seeking worth through others' eyes is that people are fickle. One day they praise you, and the next they tear you down. One day they claim loyalty, and the next they are nowhere to be found. If your identity hinges on their unstable verdicts, then your life will always feel like a storm, pulled one way, then another, never at rest, never at peace. But when you anchor your worth in something unchanging, you stand unshaken even as the waves crash around you. The greatest tragedy is how many people spend their whole lives trying to win love from those who never had the capacity to give it. They exhaust themselves bending and breaking, only to discover that no matter what they do, it will never be enough for someone who has already chosen not to care. To continue in that cycle is to live enslaved to rejection. Freedom begins the moment you realize that your worth was never theirs to validate in the first place. The approval of others may feel sweet, but it is not essential. What is essential is to know who you are, apart from their fleeting recognition. When you stop measuring yourself by others' opinions, you find the courage to walk away from indifference without guilt. You discover the strength to stop begging for scraps of attention as though you were starving, because deep within, you already have a feast of identity waiting for you. Those who care will see it, honor it, and nurture it. Those who do not will simply dismiss it, and that dismissal no longer has the power to wound you. Every life is precious, but not every voice deserves authority over yours. Learn to distinguish between the noise of opinion and the truth of worth. Once you grasp that distinction, you rise above the games of manipulation, the sting of neglect, and the emptiness of shallow approval. You finally stand in the freedom of being who you are, fully secure, fully valued, fully free. There are connections in life that build you, and there are connections that break you. The tragedy is that many do not recognize the difference until they are already weary, already depleted, already questioning why they feel so empty. Toxic attachments do not announce themselves with warning signs. They often masquerade as loyalty, familiarity, or even comfort, but their fruit is always the same. A slow erosion of your peace, your clarity, and your strength. When you cling to those who do not care, you are essentially pouring your spirit into a vessel with holes. No matter how much you give, it leaks away into nothingness, leaving you exhausted and unfulfilled. The human heart was designed for connection, but not for entanglement that destroys. Every conversation, every interaction, every exchange carries weight. Some leave you refreshed, renewed, and sharpened, while others leave you drained, burdened, and restless. Toxic attachments are like silent thieves, stealing your joy one moment at a time until you no longer recognize yourself. They thrive on dependency, demanding your energy while offering nothing of substance in return. And the more you cling, the more they take, until you begin to confuse survival with love. What makes toxic attachment so dangerous is their subtlety. They do not always appear in the form of blatant abuse. Sometimes they exist as indifference, a consistent pattern of neglect, masked by occasional gestures of care. They keep you tethered just enough to believe the relationship still holds value, while slowly robbing you of the strength you need to walk in your purpose. You find yourself waiting for them to change, waiting for them to notice, waiting for them to care. Yet the wait becomes a lifetime prison. The spiritual cost of such bonds is immeasurable. When your energy is consumed by those who drain you, you have little left to pour into the mission you were born to fulfill. Your mind becomes clouded, your spirit heavy, your decisions compromised. Toxic ties divert you from the voice of truth, replacing it with confusion and distraction. What should have been a journey of growth becomes a cycle of stagnation as you pour life into people who have no intention of reciprocating. But freedom is possible. It begins with awareness, with the courage to see the relationship for what it is rather than what you hope it could be. It requires discernment to recognize when you are being emptied instead of filled, when you are being used instead of valued. And once that recognition comes, the only path forward is release. Separation may feel painful in the moment, but it is the only path to restoration. You cannot heal while drinking poison, and you cannot grow while chained to what drains you. Letting go of toxic attachments is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of survival. More than that, it is an act of obedience to the truth that your life is too sacred to waste on those who only deplete it. In release, you reclaim your strength, your clarity, and your spirit. In release, you finally step into the freedom you were created to walk in. Not every person who enters your life is meant to remain. Some arrive as teachers, some as tests, and others as blessings, but very few are intended to walk with you for the long haul. This is why discernment is vital. Without it, you confuse proximity with loyalty, charm with character, and presence with care. Discernment is the filter through which you separate those who genuinely seek your good from those who simply seek their gain. Without it, you will continue to open your heart to people who were never meant to hold it, and each time, the cost becomes heavier. Discernment is not suspicion. It is wisdom guided by clarity. It allows you to see patterns over promises, consistency over words, and fruit over appearances. Anyone can say they care, but do their actions align? Anyone can declare loyalty, but do they remain steady when storms come? Discernment helps you step back and look beyond the surface, to measure people not by what they say in a moment of convenience, but by how they live over time. When you learn to observe without illusions, you free yourself from the cycle of disappointment that comes from misplaced trust. One of the greatest mistakes we make is assuming that our intentions are shared by others. You may approach with sincerity while they approach with self-interest. You may give with sacrifice while they take with entitlement. Without discernment, you will continue to believe that your level of care will eventually awaken theirs. But discernment exposes reality. You cannot make someone love, you cannot force someone to honor, and you cannot convince someone to value what they have already dismissed. It is not your job to transform their heart. It is your responsibility to protect yours. Discernment also teaches you that not all loss is a tragedy. Sometimes the most merciful gift is the departure of someone who was never aligned with your destiny. Their exit, though painful, clears the space for those who are truly meant to walk beside you. But if you lack discernment, you will spend your days chasing after the ones who left, rather than welcoming the ones who were sent. You will mourn what was never real instead of rejoicing in what is about to be revealed. The ability to discern comes from quieting the noise and paying attention to truth. It requires the humility to admit when you were wrong about someone and the courage to act on what you now see. Discernment is not passive, it demands response. When you see clearly that a person is not for you, you must have the resolve to release them, no matter how long they've been in your circle. To ignore what is revealed is to choose your own bondage. Ultimately, discernment is a form of protection. It safeguards your heart from manipulation, your spirit from depletion, and your destiny from derailment. With discernment, you no longer stumble blindly into relationships that drain you. Instead, you walk with intention, surrounded by those whose care is genuine and whose presence aligns with your purpose. There comes a point in every life when holding on becomes more damaging than releasing. We imagine that clinging is a sign of love, a demonstration of loyalty, or even a testimony of faithfulness. Yet in reality, there are times when holding on is the very thing that keeps us bound to pain, disappointment, and despair. Freedom begins not when circumstances change, but when we find the courage to let go of what no longer serves our growth, our peace, or our calling. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Giving up is rooted in hopelessness, but letting go is rooted in wisdom. It is the recognition that you cannot carry dead weight and expect to soar. It is the understanding that not every relationship, not every friendship, not every connection was designed to last forever. Some were meant to shape you for a season, then release you into the next. The danger lies in confusing temporary lessons with permanent bonds, for when you do, you chain yourself to something that was never meant to travel the full distance with you. Letting go often feels like loss because it requires you to surrender the illusion of what could have been. You may replay conversations, reimagine scenarios, or convince yourself that if you had done something differently, the outcome would have changed. But clinging to "what if" will never resurrect what was already dead. The longer you grip it, the deeper the damage it inflicts on your spirit. Freedom comes when you finally accept the truth. Not everyone will walk with you, not everyone will care for you, and not everyone is meant to remain by your side. The act of release is an act of trust. You trust that by letting go, you are not stepping into emptiness, but into alignment. You trust that the loss of false attachments makes room for authentic ones. You trust that your life is not defined by who walked away, but by the path that still lies ahead. Release does not diminish your story, it strengthens it, for it proves that you value your future more than you fear your loneliness. Letting go also liberates your energy. As long as you cling to those who do not care, you are tethered to cycles of neglect and disappointment. But when you release them, your energy is no longer wasted on trying to change what cannot be changed. That energy becomes available to nurture your purpose, to strengthen your character, and to invest in people who genuinely reciprocate. You stop begging for scraps of affection and instead feast on the abundance of life that was waiting for you all along. True freedom always begins at the point of release. It is the doorway through which you step into clarity, peace, and restoration. And while letting go may sting in the moment, the pain of release is far lighter than the weight of chains. To walk in freedom, you must learn this sacred truth. Some doors are meant to be closed, and some hands are meant to be unclenched, so that you may finally walk unbound. Human beings were never meant to walk alone. At the core of our design is the longing for connection, the need for relationships that breathe life rather than steal it. Once you free yourself from those who do not care, the next step is not isolation, but intentional alignment. The goal is not to harden your heart, but to redirect your heart toward those who truly value it. Mutual, life-giving connections are not built on convenience or appearances. They are built on reciprocity, respect, and genuine care. A life-giving connection is one where both people pour into one another. It is not about keeping score, but about shared investment. When you are weak, they strengthen you. When they stumble, you lift them. It is a rhythm of giving and receiving that nourishes the soul. The difference is clear when you compare it to one-sided attachments. In toxic ties, you are left drained, questioning your worth, and carrying burdens alone. But in healthy relationships, you find encouragement, accountability, and joy. You walk away from conversations feeling lighter, stronger, and more focused on your purpose. The challenge for many is that they confuse proximity with mutuality. Just because someone has been around for years does not mean they are truly invested. Time does not equal trustworthiness. Longevity does not equal loyalty. The measure of a relationship is not how long it has existed, but how deeply it adds value to your life. Mutual connections will show themselves in action, not just in words. They are the ones who show up, who remember, who listen, and who stand beside you, even when it costs them something. Choosing to invest in mutual relationships also requires discernment and humility. Discernment helps you recognize when a connection is genuine and life-giving, while humility allows you to reciprocate with the same care you receive. Too often, people long for healthy relationships while refusing to become healthy themselves. But to receive life-giving connections, you must also be willing to give life. You cannot demand loyalty while offering indifference, nor expect encouragement while sowing criticism. Mutuality means both sides carry the responsibility of nurturing the bond. The beauty of life-giving connections is that they multiply strength. Alone, your victories are heavy and your struggles feel crushing. With the right people beside you, victories are celebrated more fully and struggles are carried more lightly. The presence of one genuine friend who cares outweighs the noise of 100 who do not. These are the relationships that sharpen your character, expand your vision, and remind you of your worth when the world tries to convince you otherwise. So, invest wisely. Do not scatter your time and energy into barren soil. Instead, plant deeply in the fertile ground of mutual care. Pour into those who pour into you. Celebrate those who celebrate you. Build with those who build alongside you. For in the end, the quality of your connections will shape the quality of your life. And when those connections are life-giving, they do not just sustain you, they elevate you. Your heart is the wellspring of your life. It is the source from which your words, your choices, and your relationships flow. If your heart is unprotected, anything and anyone can enter, leaving behind damage that takes years to heal. Boundaries are not walls built out of bitterness. They are gates of wisdom that regulate who has access to your inner world. Without boundaries, you leave yourself vulnerable to the carelessness of those who do not value you. With boundaries, you preserve your peace, protect your purpose, and honor the life entrusted to you. Many people confuse boundaries with rejection, but they are not the same. Rejection is about pushing people away to prove a point. Boundaries are about creating order so that love, respect, and trust can flourish in the right places. They are not a declaration of arrogance, but of stewardship. You are responsible for the condition of your heart, and if you continually allow those who neglect or abuse it to remain unchecked, you betray yourself. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of self-respect that says, "My soul is too valuable to be trampled upon." Boundaries also expose the intentions of others. The people who truly care will respect the lines you draw. They will understand that love thrives best within the safety of mutual honor. But those who seek only to take advantage will resist, manipulate, or criticize your boundaries because they strip them of control. This is why boundaries are not just protective, but revealing. They show you who belongs in your circle and who only wants to exploit it. Establishing boundaries requires clarity. You must first know your own values, priorities, and limits before you can expect others to honor them. If you are unsure of where you stand, you will allow others to decide for you, and their decisions will rarely align with your best interests. Boundaries are a way of saying, "This is where I end and you begin. This is what I will allow, and this is what I cannot accept." They are not about building barriers to love, but about creating pathways for love to remain healthy. The absence of boundaries leads to exhaustion. When you give unlimited access to people who do not care, you end up drained, resentful, and broken. You find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, and over time you lose sight of who you truly are. But when you learn to guard your heart, you reclaim control of your life. You stop reacting to the demands of others and begin responding to the truth of your own calling. Guarding your heart is not about living in isolation. It is about living intentionally. It is about creating space where peace can thrive, where joy can grow, and where purpose can unfold without interference. Boundaries may feel uncomfortable to establish, but the discomfort is temporary. The peace they bring, however, is lasting. To live without them is to live enslaved to the whims of others. To live with them is to live free, secure, and whole. Every destiny comes with a cost. To move forward into the life you were created for, there will be moments when separation is not optional but necessary. Not everyone can walk with you into your future because not everyone is assigned to your path. Some are meant to be part of your history, not your destiny. The difficulty lies in accepting this truth and having the courage to act on it. Separation is painful, but it is also liberating because it breaks the chains that keep you tethered to people who were never meant to carry the weight of your calling. Courageous separation means choosing long-term purpose over short-term comfort. It means recognizing that staying connected to those who do not care about you will delay or even derail the very things you are meant to accomplish. Every hour you spend tied to their indifference is an hour stolen from your growth, your mission, and your future. The temptation is to linger, to keep hoping they will change, or to fear the loneliness that comes with walking away. But destiny is never birthed in compromise. It requires resolve to cut ties where ties have become chains. There is a sobering truth. Some relationships are designed to test whether you love your future more than your familiarity. You can choose to remain in circles where you are tolerated, ignored, or dismissed, or you can step into circles where you are honored, valued, and equipped. The difference between the two will shape the trajectory of your life. Destiny does not wait for you to gain the approval of people who never cared. It waits for your decision to rise, even if it means rising alone. Separation is not about bitterness. It is about clarity. You do not walk away in anger, but in conviction that you cannot fulfill your purpose while carrying what was never meant for you. Sometimes the greatest act of love, for yourself and even for them, is to release the tie, allowing both of you to walk the paths uniquely designed for your lives. What you lose in the moment is far less than what you gain in freedom, focus, and fulfillment. The courage to separate is often tested in silence. It is tested when no one else understands, when others question your choices, and when your own heart wrestles with guilt. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Your destiny is too precious, your calling too great, and your time too short to waste on those who will not walk with you. When you embrace courageous separation, you discover that what felt like loss was actually the doorway to alignment. The people who belong in your destiny will meet you on the path ahead, and they will recognize you without pretense or performance. But you will never find them if you remain chained to those who do not care. Destiny demands courage, and courage demands separation.